The game begins with the low-ranking Yakuza Kazuma Kiryu trying to collect money. After roughing up the man, he takes his leave again, believing his task to be fulfilled. But when the man is later found to be shot in an empty lot of land, Kiryu becomes the #1 prospect. Further, the spot of land was apparently an important piece for the real estate plans of his Yakuza family, earning him the distrust of his superiors. Not knowing what to do in order to prove his innocence, Kiryu consults his closest allies, his friend Akira Nishikiyama and their mentor Shintaro Kazama. But even with their additional brain capacity, they cannot come up with a good solution for Kiryu's misery. So he decides to leave the Dojima family so his reputation doesn't cause any trouble for his friends and especially for Kazama. This, as you might have guessed, doesn't go entirely smooth, but after throwing some fists, turns out to be more or less successful. Now trying to arrange himself with becoming a civilian again, Kazuma is approached by a mysterious man, the real estate agent Tetsu Tachibana, who tries to convince Kiryu to work for him. But Kiryu, who finds it way too suspicious, declines the offer at first, but after coming to the conclusion that he has no better shot at clearing his name, he agrees nonetheless. During his work, Kiryu learns about the interest of Tachibana real estate in the empty lot, which his new boss explains by telling him that the owner of this lot would gain immense power inside the Tojo clan, which is the second largest Yakuza association in Japan, uniting 100 families with over 30,000 members. So the lot really has the potential to stir up the Japanese underworld. Following that, the narrative for the first time shifts over to Goro Majima, another former member of the Yakuza forced to manage the cabaret club The Grand. He's immensely unhappy about his situation, and when Tsukasa Sagawa of the Omi Alliance, the only clan bigger than the Tojo clan, offers him a chance to get back into the Yakuza by assassinating Matoko Makimura, Majima accepts and prepares himself for the hit. When he arrives at the alleged workplace of his target, he only comes across a blind woman, and he believes he will have to get his victim another day. Which is until a buff man arrives stepping in to protect the blind woman, and due to Majima believing the man to be his target, the two begin to brawl. But as it turns out, the woman is the real Makoto, and the man, named Lee, only acts as her bodyguard. And when Majima realizes the Yakuza are after her life, he switches his attitude towards protecting her himself. Kiryu, on the other hand, accompanied by Tachibana's right hand Oda, is tasked with convincing a house squatter to leave a property important to Tachibana's businesses. But, as it turns out, the squatter is backed by the Yakuza and is only made to leave by beating up the Yakuza thugs. To celebrate their victory, Oda invites Kiryu for some drinks at the Serena bar. But when Kiryu waits for him, Oda arrives heavily beat up. Outside of the bar, Kiryu is met by Dojima Lieutenant Hiroki Awano, who gives him an ultimatum to sell out Tachibana or the Dojima family will make his life hell. Following that, Kiryu learns that Tachibana seemingly now knows who the owner of the empty lot happens to be. But Kazuma has other things to worry about as of now. Because he ignored the deadline, Dojima thugs including Kuze and Awano are now chasing him across town. Luckily, Nishiki comes to the rescue and the two of them flee outside of town until they make a stop away from the action. Here, instead of the old friends celebrating their escape, one of the most emotional scenes I so far witnessed in the series plays out. Because to spare his friend from suffering through the torture of the Yakuza, Nishiki decides it would be better to end Kiryu's life here and now. But when he, under tears, just couldn't do it, Kiryu and him part ways for now and Kiryu leaves for Kamurocho again. After bringing Makoto to a rarely used warehouse to hide, Majima meets with Lee, who suggests faking Makoto's death. But to do so, he would have to murder a criminal woman that has the same proportions as Makoto. Further, he finds out that the reason behind her blindness is trauma she suffered when she fell into the hands of human traffickers. Even though he wants to desperately help Makoto, Majima decides against taking another woman's life and throws away his tools for the job. After he leaves, a mysterious figure is seen, and the next day Makoto's death is announced on the news. The understandably confused Majima is then ordered to come to the Grand, where he finds Homare Nishitani, the patriarch of the Kijin clan. Even though nothing is really said during their meetup, Majima suspects he might know that Makoto is still alive and plans to leave the city with her. But before he could do that, Lee is killed by an explosive trap in a car, and he himself is ambushed by Tsukasa Sagawa's man. Sagawa aims his gun at the helpless Majima, but before anything could happen, another mysterious figure shoots Sagawa and knocks out Majima. For Kiryu, it isn't looking much better either, because Kamurocho is completely overrun by Dojima men looking for him. While making his way through town, he finally comes across a friendly face in the form of Reina, who offers him to hide at Serena until things calm down a bit. But his bad luck doesn't quite come to an end, as he is once again confronted by members of the Dojima family. Because, as it turns out, the Yakuza already know that Kiryu and especially Nishiki are regulars at Serena and were expecting him there. So in order to take the Dojima's focus away from his friends, he makes a run for it, until he finds himself once again surrounded by Kuze and his men, and even after beating them, his escape is not secured, as he is approached by Abano, who aims a gun at him. But before Abano could shoot Kiryu, Tachibana speeds towards them inside a sports car and takes off with Kiryu. The two head towards an underground parking lot where they wait for Oda to pick them up. When he arrives, Tachibana's physical condition suddenly worsens. We find out that Tachibana suffers from kidney failure since he lost an arm while defending Oda back in the day, and the two immediately take him to an underground hospital to get him treated. The head of Little Asia, where the hospital is located, grants Oda and Tachibana a place to hide, but doesn't want to include Kiryu due to the danger of a war with the Yakuza. Without any other option, Kiryu leaves and finds refuge at a homeless camp. At the next day, Oda, Tachibana and Kiryu head for the Tojo clan headquarters, where Tachibana wants to convince the second chairman to spare Kiryu. To do so, he offers 1 billion yen and promises to stop the Dojima family from shifting the power structure inside the clan. After hesitating at first, Nihara agrees to the conditions, but still orders his men to attack the three on their way out. Followed their difficult but successful escape, Tachibana reveals that he knows who and where the owner of the empty lot is, which happens to be Makoto Makimura, who lives in Sotenbori. Oda and Kiryu plan to head there immediately, but Tachibana warns them that Dojima thugs also arrived in Sotenbori, so they might know as well. In Sotenbori, Goro Majima currently finds himself captured by Sagawa and his men. They torture him as punishment and to get information on the man who took Makoto with him. When they realize that he has no information on the mysterious man, they send him out to find said man and get Makoto back. With Nashitani being the only one he could think of sending a hitman after Makoto, Majima tries to find him first. But as it turns out, Nashitani is still in prison after being captured by the police early in the game. In order to get to him, Majima has to convince a corrupt police detective named Billiken to get him inside. After dragging him down, Billiken agrees to get him inside under the condition that Majima wins 3 fights in an underground arena called the Styx. After defeating his last opponent, the impressed Billiken takes him to Nishitani, who is seemingly enjoying his time in the cell, which, as it turns out, is due to the whole prison being on his payroll and according to him, one of the safest places to lay low. After another brawl between him and Majima, Nishitani presents everything he knows about the man, who turns out to be Masura Sera of the Nikkyo Consortium. That is also part of the Tojo clan. Nishitani, impressed by Majima's fighting skills, offers him a position inside his family, but Majima declines due to his loyalty to Taiga Sajima and the Tojo clan. Upon leaving the cell, another guard shoots Billiken, and upon revealing that Shibusawa ordered Makimura's death because he failed to capture Makoto, shoots him repeatedly. But before dying to his injuries, Nishitani puts his last moments into ending the guard's life as well, enabling Majima to escape safely. Following his escape, Majima decides to go after Sera himself, because he fears for her life if he brings Sagawa along. But Sagawa finds Majima eventually and forces him to look for Sera together. The two find out that their target apparently hides inside a brothel called Camellia Grove that also functions as the Nikkyo's headquarters in Osaka. Inside, the duo has to fight their way through dozens of Nikkyo thugs guarding the place, until ultimately confronting Sera at the top of the building. Sera seems impressed by how passionate Majima tries to help a woman he never met before, and offers to reveal her place of stay when he proves his strength. So after a fight, the defeated Sera explains the situation around Makoto owning the empty lot of land, and that he is currently with a member of Tachibana Real Estate. But before Sera could hand over a business card with the member's information, Sagawa shoots Sera and orders Majima to accompany him to Tokyo in order to end Makoto's life once and for all. Following that, he hands over the business card anyway, which reads Kiryu's name. Back to Kiryu himself, we learn that he and Oda met with Sera, and that Sera entrusted the two with Makoto in order to reunite her with her brother. The new trio then decides to drive back to Tokyo, but is attacked on the highway by Shibusawa's men. When they lost them again, Oda drives the three to an empty building site where they plan to hide for a while. When Oda leaves to check the area, Makoto tells Kiryu that she recognizes his voice. She is almost certain that he is the man who sold her into human trafficking, and is with that responsible for her trauma. Oda overheard the conversation and points his gun at them, revealing his true intentions. He admits selling Makoto, and that this was long before he met Tachibana and he couldn't know that she was his sister. So he had a deal with Shibusawa to hand over Makoto in exchange for his and Tachibana's freedom, and Kiryu would only be in his way. But before Oda can put his plan into action, Makoto pulls a hidden blade from a walking stick and stabs Oda in his leg to break free from him. Kiryu uses his chance and disarms Oda. As Shibusawa's men get closer, Oda, full of regret, knows that they are going to kill him for failing his mission. So before Kiryu and Makoto take off, he asks them to hide the truth about his treason from Tachibana. After finally returning to Kamurocho, Kiryu decides to leave Makoto at the homeless shelter while looking for Tachibana. He tracks him down in Little Asia once again, where Tojo clan thugs are causing havoc again because they found the hiding place with Oda's belongings. Following another knuckle sandwich street food festival, the two are confronted by a highly trained assassin sent by Dojima himself. He shoots Kiryu, and to save him, Tachibana, who has to be taken alive, offers to go with the hitman under the condition that he spares Kiryu's life. The severely injured Kiryu passes out, and when he comes back to his senses, finds himself in the care of the elder inside Little Asia. He tells Kiryu that the assassin that attacked them was a famous Chinese hitman called Lao Gui, and that he needs Kiryu's help to save Tachibana. Kiryu agrees and immediately heads out, but is once again attacked by the Yakuza, accompanied by Nishiki, who is being told to prove his loyalty by ending his old friend's life. He doesn't follow the order and sides with Kiryu instead, beating up the thugs together. Further, Nishiki then agrees to join Kiryu in his search for Tachibana. Said search then brings them to an abandoned warehouse where Kuze and his men torture Tachibana to get the location of his sister out of him. Eventually, Nishiki and Kazuma stop Kuze, but find Tachibana in terrible condition. He reveals to them that there is a traitor inside the Tojo clan that wants to sell the empty lot to their biggest rivals, the Omi Alliance. The defeated Kuze confirms this before Kiryu leaves with Tachibana to the empty lot where Nishiki is supposed to bring his sister. But before Makoto arrives, Tachibana fell victim to his injuries. After arriving in Kamurocho, Sagawa tells Majima that Shimano is the one who wants to sell the empty lot to the Omi Alliance, because he has promised to become the Tojo clan chairman if the Omi Alliance takes over the control over the Tojo clan areas with the funds gained with the empty lot. The two are then invited by Shimano himself, who tells Majima that he predicted him to back out of killing Makoto. He further tries to bring him on his side with promising him a place in his family when he hands over Makoto to him. He also tells him to look for Nishiki if he wants to find Kiryu. The upset Majima tracks down Nishiki at Serena, where the two begin to fight. After defeating him, Majima explains that he is not interested in hurting Makoto. He was the one to protect her from the Yakuza before Kiryu took care of her. Nishiki then reveals that even if he wanted, neither him or Kiryu could help him because they are looking for her herself, which is because she took off after being confronted by her brother's death. Majima, heading to the empty lot in hope of finding some leads, spots Makoto at the top of a roof. Reunited with Majima, Makoto tells him that after being overwhelmed by her emotions, she regained a little bit of her eyesight and is now able to see silhouettes again. Further, she decides to take revenge on the Dojima family for her loved ones. Majima, who began to fall in love with Makoto, tries to talk her out of trying to face such a powerful opponent and run away with him instead. She agrees for now, and the two enjoy a romantic evening together. But when Majima leaves to buy her a second serving of takoyaki, he comes back to a message, which says she is still convinced to face the Dojima family to avenge Tachibana and Lee. We then see Makoto willingly being taken in by Shibusawa, who brings her to a meeting with Dojima and his lieutenants. Here, she offers Dojima to sell him the lot for a very low amount of money, under the condition that he kills his lieutenants. After a short moment of hesitation, Dojima reveals that her offer is worthless, due to the fact that the lot is so small that the building project can go through as long as there's no owner to complain, which he follows with giving the order to shoot Makoto, which is executed by Lao Gui. Majima, who is just moments too late to get to Dojima himself, in a rage beats every Yakuza he comes across before beginning to carry the injured Makoto. But surprisingly, he's met with the assistance of Shibusawa and his men, where they immediately begin with attempting to save Makoto's life, leaving a despairing Majima behind fleeing for her life. The due to his success promoted Shibusawa gives out an order to kill everyone associated with Kazama. Kiryu comes across Sarah, who informs him of Makoto's survival and that he will hide her in a hideout inside the Shibora wharf. Shortly after, he hears about what is going down at his mentor's office and heads there. Before entering, he is once again challenged by Kuze, who, after being defeated, warns Kiryu, Nishiki and Kashigawa that emerged from the chaos just after the fight ended, that Shibusawa, accompanied by his men, is heading to Sarah's hideout in the harbor. Kiryu and Nishiki head straight to the hideout, and Kashiwagi heads out to accumulate allies himself. Majima, in his rage, is headed for the Dojima headquarters to confront Dojima himself. Sagawa gets in his way, but this time Majima beats him and moves along. When Kiryu and Nishiki arrive at the harbor, the fight has already started to begin. The two manage to get past the fighting Yakuza onto the ship, where Shibusawa is searching for the hidden Makoto. When Kiryu reaches Shibusawa, who has already reached Makoto, he provokes him into a fight. That ends with the victorious Kiryu about to kill Shibusawa, but Nishiki convinces him to spare Shibusawa by appealing to his honor. Majima, on the other hand, reaches Dojima's office, but is challenged once more by Abano before being able to enter. The two are then attacked by Laogui, who kills Abano but is defeated by Majima, who then intends to make him share Abano's fate. But Sarah once again arrives before he can follow through and convinces him to let off of the hitman. Sarah then tasks Majima with killing the traitor Shimano instead. But when Majima confronts Shimano, instead of executing his orders, he makes a deal with Shimano to convince Sarah he's not a traitor if he lets him back into the family, which Shimano agrees to. 1 month later, due to his success in acquiring the empty lot, Ihara selects Sarah as his successor in case of his death and promotes him to the position of captain. Kiryu reveals that he plans to rejoin the Yakuza in order to support his mentor, who will be released from prison soon. Once again, some time passes and we get a scene where Majima protects Makoto and a friend from low-ranking thugs. She doesn't fully recognize him because she couldn't see him when they last met. Majima decides to not reveal himself because he thinks she would be better off without him in her life. In the final moments of the game, Makoto is seen bringing flowers to the empty lot for her lost ones. Here she finds a farewell present from Majima, Tachibana's old watch. Then the scene switches a final time to Majima and Kiryu, where Majima, now in his role of the Mad Dog, calls him Kiryu-chan for the first time.